Hello and welcome to another episode of Roots of Wisdom. I am very excited to be with you again. My name is Lita Boy, and today we've got a very exciting guest, someone whom I respect greatly. And I usually go on and on about how awesome elders are. This is probably one of the most coolest elder that I've ever encountered. Of course, I would like for you to experience it yourself. So I'd like to hand over to you, Baba Matosho, just to uh, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to where you are.
Hey, I am professor of African American Studies at Clark Atlanta University. I hold a PhD in African American Studies from Temple University. I study eldership, African studies, African culture, uh, African literature at Temple University under Sonia Sanchez, um, Malefia Sante, folks of that order. And I've been a professor now at Clark Atlanta for 30 years, and I founded the Indigenous Rites of Passage community here in Atlanta. That's been going now for 30 plus years strong. And I'm also a choir director and a musician. So I wear many hats.
Mm, mm. You mentioned the community that you formed, Dungunzia. Perhaps we could explain a little bit more about that and what it is and the purpose and the function of it during this time.
Well, it is a, a rites of passage community, an initiation society, if you will, that teaches character and principle to African descended people. Our aim is to love one another, to honor our ancestors, to learn our history. Our aim is to make connections, to build relationships with each other across gender, across hierarchy, across sexuality, uh, to to do our very, very best to do the kind of ritual work that will keep us reminded of who we are, of why we come, of of the strength of who we are as a people. Um, it is it takes a lot to do community. It takes a lot to do community, but it's really our only salvation as African people in the diaspora. It's really the means by which we're going to survive. I believe. Uh, in this world by learning to love and depend upon one another and God, ancestors, and nature.
Mm, mm. What are the patterns that you've witnessed over the period of time? What are the needs of the community? What are
Of our community, of just
That's right. Yeah, that's
community
right.
period.
This community.
Uh, uh, Healing work in terms of self worth, healing work in terms of self love. Um, I think that's at the root of most things. And then the other thing is very simply, though it's not simple, and that is discipline. The ability to start a thing and finish it, the ability to conceive an idea and see it all the way through can be a challenge for most.
Mm, mm. And let's talk about eldership for a moment. I mean, what has your journey of eldership been like, and how did you find yourself stepping into it? I mean, a lot of the people that I've interviewed struggle with the ideology of eldership. So, what's been your experience with that walk?
I believe in eldership. And I come from people in rural Arkansas who believed in eldership, and it never crossed my mind not to be an elder as an adult. I think any adult who's not an elder, something's wrong. I think any adult should be an elder because for me, an elder is an adult who is intentional and conscious about the health, the safety, the blooming of their community and the people in it. I think every adult should be intentionally committed to and intentionally working towards the greatest health of the community in which they live. It seems to me that an adult who's not committed to that uh, is dead weight. And so I I I always believed I'd walk as an elder if I lived as a child. I always believed that. Again, I didn't know what the other option was to be grown and not be an elder. I didn't understand what that was. It has been a fantastic journey, Lita. It's been unbelievably fruitful. I feel like I have helped lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of young people to bloom, and they've helped me to grow tremendously. It has taken everything I have. It's taken my house, my car, my time, my money. But I think it's supposed to, because I think an elder is supposed to trade his or her resources for the excellence of community. Yes, I think an elder is supposed to. I think an elder is supposed to exchange his or her resources for the magic of what they produce in people. I'm trying not to get wound up because I'll get wound.
They'll keep going, keep winding.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that. I believe that because let's be honest, when we transition from here to eternity, you don't take any of it with you, and this is why. Because you're actually supposed to spend your money on young people. You're supposed to use your house. You're supposed to use the resources you get from God. You're supposed to actually use them, not hoard them. You're supposed to use them in exchange for other people's development, in exchange for other people's health, in exchange for other people's well-being, so that the satisfaction when a man steps into eternity is all the life forces he made possible.
Ooh, that's powerful. That's very powerful. Um, and so what are some of the teachings that have shaped you as an elder?
Well, certainly I have elders, and uh, one of the things that my elders have taught me that absolutely shapes me, that absolutely positively shapes me, is one, to work hard to be very careful, to love whoever you walk with, um, and to love them intensely, and to love them even on days they don't love you. Because what is true is if an elder does an elder's job correctly, there will be days where others are frustrated with you. Because an elder's job is to help a person to achieve their best, to see their destiny, right? An elder's job is to help a person bloom even on the days they think they don't want it, right? That's an elder's job. That's an elder's contract with the universe, I believe. But an elder has to be lovingly as an elder does it. I'm not saying I always do that, right? But I always try, right? The other thing that has helped me, that elders have pushed me to see, is that an elder has to be constantly evolving as an elder is pressing others to evolve. That has been a really beautiful lesson for me because this notion of do as I say, not as I do is not fruitful at all. Um, what really helps a young person to believe in transformation, what helps a young person to believe that their destiny is worth fighting for, is when they see it bloom in their own elder. And then one other thought that I think has been enormously helpful for me in eldership, and that is to be able to say, I'm sorry. Forgive me. I pray that you can forgive my shortcomings as I walk with you. That can be tough because sometimes we as elders, we feel like we give so much. We feel like we sacrifice so much. And it's like, oh my God, then how in the world could I possibly have messed up? How in the world could I possibly be wrong? And I sacrificed and I gave so much. But it is very possible. And not only is it possible, an elder has to account for that. Yeah.
Hmm. Thank you for sharing that. And for me, I'm just curious. Um, we're living now in a world where there aren't a lot of elders, or elders aren't really stepping up. What do you think is the cause of that?
The lack of initiation, especially here in America. I think a lot of adults care. I think they care. I don't think they know how to be elders. See, I know how to be up because I was initiated. I learned the process of eldership because I studied African culture. I read texts like Malidoma Some, right? I've read Ayikwe Arma. I've read Ernest Game. Um, I read Toni Morrison. These places where elders exist in text, and I saw what that looked like, right? And I think so many Black adults have not read and have missed their own initiation. So they are adults, right? But they're not in intentional process of maturing, the intentional process, right, of becoming. Most Black adults are not in that process. And without being in that process, eldership is not inevitable.
Hmm, hmm, Thank you for that. Wow. Uh, this brings, of course, then what are the rites of passages into becoming an elder? What are the initiations that one has to undergo so that they can become an elder?
Well, of course, they differ all over the world. But I think there are a couple of things that's necessary to become an elder. One of those things is I think a person has to have the resources to assist and change somebody else's life. Those resources, I think, are financial. See, I think that if you have an elder who can't buy a cup of coffee, if you have an elder who has nowhere for a child to stay, if you have an elder who can't give you a ride from point A to point B, it's going to be very difficult for that person's eldership to manifest well. I'm not saying an elder has to be wealthy. I don't think that at all. I just think an elder has to have resources. But all resources are not monetary. Also, I think an elder also needs to be a person who has access to knowledge and access to wisdom. And when I say access to knowledge, I don't mean he or she has to possess all of it. Sometimes what a good elder tells you um, is to whom one should go for one's needs. Sometimes, in fact, a good elder at some point will tell you, "I'm not the best person for your issue or your struggle. Let me tell you where you should go." That is a very, very, very good elder, I think. Right. The other thing that an elder, I think, should have, which can be very hard to come by, is the emotional capacity to hold other people's struggles. Which again can be very difficult because the elder, especially in America, in diaspora, is holding his or her own struggles, right? But I do think that an elder has to have the emotional capacity to hold other people's struggles. What I mean by that is even an elder's ability to touch other people freely, openly, lovingly, kindly, even if it makes people uncomfortable. An elder's touch is essential. It's healing. It's magical. An elder, I think an elder has healing touch in her or his hand. I believe that. I think this is why Jesus laid hands on people because the very vibration that an elder gets in exchange for an elder's willingness to elder, I think comes from God in the universe, and that vibration carries power and it carries transformative energy. I think an elder. I think also what it means to hold a person emotionally is the ability to listen, right? The ability to listen to others, the ability to listen as people move and struggle and grow, right? Um, and I have struggled with this because I want people to grow. I want people to evolve. I want them to grow so badly. Yes, that sometimes I'm like, listen, I heard you, and let's go. you know, let's sit in this for a minute. You know, I'm still working through some of that. The other thing is the ability to celebrate people, the ability to applaud a person as they move, the ability uh, um, um, to exalt people as you see them evolve and transform. I think that's very important for an elder to do, not just to direct it, but to also be people's cheerleader. You know?
Mm, mm, love that. So I mean, as someone who's young, who perhaps is in dire need to find an elder, what are the characteristics and virtues should I be looking for in order to to connect with an elder? That's the first thing. And are there any protocols, or do I just go up and say, "Hey, please be my elder," or how do we build that relationship?
My sensibility, my experience is that elders come to you when you're ready for one. I don't think a person has to go find them. I think they're already in front of you. I think a person might have to be intentional about choosing them and connecting to them. Um, they're elders at school, they're elders at work, they're elders at church, they're elders in community, they're elders next door, they're elders in neighborhoods. You know, and again, I think a person has to be intentional about saying, "Ah, there's my elder." Um, And so I would tell a person once they get conscious of needing an elder or searching for an elder, what I would tell a person simply is open their eyes. And I don't necessarily mean the physical eyes, open their spiritual eyes to see who's the elder around you, whom you never thought of as an elder. You just thought of them as an adult, or you just thought of them as an older person, right? Um, and I think that um, I think that being intentional about that choice is very, 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 very important. So I don't think a person goes to people to interview them, right, for eldership. I think a person simply recognizes whom God and the universe has set in front of you. Again, people go to church, people go to work, people go to school. There are all kinds of places where I think elders already exist. The other thing I would tell a person though also is do not try to find an elder who you think is flawless. I think that is an error. Trying to find somebody who is absolutely without flaws. They don't have any problems, and it's like that person I can justify following. That means you'll follow no one, right? Because there are no flawless elders. But also, what's important is there are also no flawless initiates, right? So it's very important to understand that imperfection is a part of what it means to just walk with a human being. Sure, we'll find elders imperfections. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, an elder could be overweight and still be a great elder. But what is true is that they should be working on their physical weight, right? That is true. Maybe an elder curses a little bit. No, in other words, one will discover the imperfections of an elder. But it's also true if you go to a flower garden. People see all these beautiful flowers everywhere, and there are flowers. But the truth is, there are imperfections in that flower garden. Some of those blooms are not quite as fully developed as some of the other blooms. There are dead flowers among all the ones that are beautiful. There are some roses that are not quite as red as some other roses. Right. In other words, though it looks beautiful to the naked eye upon cursory glance, the imperfections are in it, and sometimes the imperfections are in the root. Ooh, God. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So the point is that the excellence that one needs does not require perfection. Is the point?
Mm, mm. And circling back to this one, and what are the characteristics of an elder?
um, um, I think an elder is consistent. I think an elder is loving. I think an elder is nurturing. I think an elder is disciplined. Um, I think an elder reaches for humility. Um, I think an elder believes in character. That's what I would.
Thank you. Thank you. And of course, I know it's not an easy road. So what are the challenges that you faced, when it comes to being an elder?
Um, being being conscious of the eldership such that so many young people, um, I've worked with so many young people that sometimes just the sheer number of folks I walk with can be overwhelming because there's so few people, so few adults around who are willing and intentional about eldering young folks. That one of my challenges has been just the sheer number, quite frankly, of young folks I have walked with and been willing to. Um, the second most intense challenge I think I've had is in America, we most people are doing initiation. Um, they're starting initiation far too late. We get introduced to initiation, to the rites of passage, to honor elders, very often as adults here in America, not as children. And so, as we're helping people to shape and to come into their own and teaching character. See, teaching character to a grown person is a very difficult process. Teaching it to a 2-year-old is far easier. And so, some of the challenge has been the pushback. Some of the challenge has been the fight from adults who are not really in their spirit. They're not really fighting you. What they're really fighting against the comfort that they know. They're really fighting against the ease of their lives as they have lived them so far. But it can be very, very difficult because it can make the process of walking with an elder a gargantuan challenge when you're pulling along somebody who at times is fighting against. And then the third thing I might say in terms of challenge, um, it just is really the difficulty of teaching discipline, especially as a principal. Most young people I've met, and most even uh, uh, grown people I've met, want discipline badly, but they come with very little of it. Teaching discipline to an adult is a beast of an effort because discipline really is teaching people against what they want, against what they desire, against their routine, against what they feel in their spirit, and it can be very, very, very hard. I've done it, and it's been incredibly fruitful, but I have paid for it. Yeah, that's what I think.
And you seem to work a lot with the younger generation. Uh, what are your hopes for the younger generation?
One, my real hope, quite frankly, Lisa, is that we'll establish more initiation processes in the diaspora. That's really the bottom line. We need more people doing initiation.
Mm.
We need more initiation processes all over America. Right? Just this conscious, intentional effort to love ourselves, to know ourselves, to acquire character. We need that in every in every Black community conceivable. That's my real hope. My real hope is that we will simply do initiation all over this land.
Mm. And of course, as someone who might not even be familiar with the idea of initiation, uh, where would you go and how would you start and what is it? It's
Yeah,
it feels
yeah.
so far detached.
It's true. It's true. It's true. Um, of course, we have a very powerful initiation process here. And the thing I would tell a person is just come on here and learn it. And then if you want to take it somewhere, take it. Right. That's I think probably the ideal thing to do. And of course, ours is not the only initiation process by any stretch of the imagination. Um, I would tell a person to go through an initiation process and then take it where spirit is telling them to take it and transform lives all over. Yeah.
Okay. Um, of course, for me, one of the greatest sight in elders, I would say, so one of the greatest qualities is truly understanding this one question, which is what are the ancestral teachings, you know, that have kind of guided your life path as you've walked from the different phases of life and into the different phases of initiation? What are different ancestral teachings?
That's such a broad question.
I know.
Um,
Mhm.
um, I will say this. I think one of the ancestral teachings that's strongest, at least in my life, right, is in initiation. It's important to teach people to follow spirit, not to follow you as an elder, right? It's important to teach people to follow spirit, not to follow you, so that they don't put their dream and their hope of power in you, a person, versus putting it in spirit and in themselves and really connecting young people to God as source, really connecting young people to ancestors as as uh, uh, as places where wisdom resides. I think the job of an elder is to help people, and not just young people, help the seniors too, to make the connection between themselves and their own ancestors, themselves and God, etc. Um, not to connect them to you as the source of all things, right? Um, and then one other thing I just thought of as I was talking that I think is extremely important also is everybody's journey is not identical. Different people will need different things, right? And I think one of the things that's very important that's definitely ancestral is I think an elder has to walk with a person long enough to be clear about what he or she needs. There's one thing in terms of just process itself, but also what does this person need particularly in terms of their journey and in terms of what will help them to become, their best selves. And that can take a lot of time because it's individualized, it's individuated. That can take a lot of time and a lot of effort, but I do think it's very important to do that.
Mm, mm. And of course, as an elder, there's you've walked a long journey. This is a very personal question, of course, but is there anything that you would do differently now that you're an elder, just looking back at your life and looking back at all of the things that have happened?
In my life in general, what might I do differently? I don't know. I feel like I've done really well. I did school well. Um, when I started in doing this thing, the initiation process here, I was 20, I think I was 27. Um, I feel like I've done it very well, not perfectly, but I gave everything I had for it. Um, uh, what might I do differently? No, I think there is maybe one thing I would do differently. I I felt like in building this rites of passage nation, uh, there were times when people volunteered to assist as elders, right? And some of them, looking back, I don't know that I think they were prepared to do the most honorable job in eldering, but I took their willingness because we just needed the help. So I think if I could go back, I think some people I would say no thank you to in terms of their willingness to elder. I don't think they were ready. They were willing, right? But I don't think they were ready. Some came saying, I'll help you. I'll be an elder, and I think some of them wanted power and influence more than transformation in young people, and not many. This is just a couple of folks, but he showed up later down the road.
Mm, mm, that's beautiful. Thank you, Baba. And so as we draw towards the end, I always ask the elder to pray us out, or share whatever words are inside that are still seeking to be expressed, you know? So my ask from you is, can you pray us out?
Well, Yes, and there's one other thing I'd like to add, if I can.
Yes, of course.
Uh, I believe, I believe that not only is eldership sacred, and not only is it important for people to be elders, I believe that it is critical for men to be able to elder girls. And I believe it is critical that women elder boys. See, that cross gender pollination in terms of spiritual development, I think is unbelievably important. And I believe it's important because it stretches an elder's capacity and it stretches an elder's ability uh, uh, um, to grow young people who come from every direction, who come from any direction, right? It stretches, it even stretches the way an elder is emotionally connected. You know, for example, if a man has to learn how to braid hair because he has daughters, his capacity is now greater in terms of his nurturing ability. I think that's a very, very, very good thing. I think that's a very, very, very good thing, right? I think that's very important to learn. What I also believe is that an elder, an, an elder needs, that's the word I'm going to say, an elder needs to plant seed in people and become unattached to the nature of the bloom. A lot of times we're planting seeds hoping for a certain kind of return as an elder. You know, I'm going to walk with this person, you know, I want this young person to go to college and to graduate. Well, what's funny is they might not go to college, but they might still become extraordinary people. And the elder has to allow God and the ancestors, and even metaphorically, the earth, the rain, to do its work on the seed. The elder's job is to plant the seed, but the elder's job is not to fully determine the seed's outcome. Right? But the elder also has to have enough maturity to take a bloom different than what the elder might have dreamed. That can be very hard for an elder because there's something we planted, right? It's something I want from this. There's something I'm expecting out of this process. There's a particular kind of existence, a particular kind of character I want from this child, right? I'm hoping, you know, we'll get a healer out of this person. But if the person doesn't become that, it is not a sign of failure on the elder's part, right? That's not a sign of, it's not a sign of failure on the elder's part. You know, I often use this metaphor of seed because when you plant seed, you cannot determine when it's going to bloom. You can't determine exactly how it's going to bloom. You cannot determine exactly what this fruit is going to taste like. The only thing you can do is expect a harvest, and one should expect that. But you can determine exactly what the harvest will be. And this can be a very difficult thing for elders. Because again, we plant with intention, and we plant with hope, and we plant with desire. But the thing I've learned, and it was a hard lesson for me, but I've learned it now. The thing I've learned is plant and be free. Plant and let it go. The harvest is coming. It is coming. It absolutely is coming. But it won't look only like you imagined. And the thing an elder has to realize, Lisa, is also your imagination falls short of the ancestors' imagination. The ancestors' imagination, the ancestral imagination is far greater than yours. So actually, you're very glad that what you planted is not only what you imagine, because what you imagine is not nearly as vast as what God envisioned. I believe that.
Mm.
I believe that. I absolutely believe that. And the last thing I'm gonna say that I do think is extremely important, and I'll close with this. Many people don't want to be elders also, Lisa, because it costs so much. It costs so much. It costs so much. And it does. I won't lie. It does. If a person does it right, it costs. It'll cost you your house. It'll cost you your food. It'll cost you your automobile. It'll cost you your money. It will. If you do it right, it will. And people think it just costs so much. But here's the catch. If an elder elders right, the desires of the elder's heart for him or her own selves, that will come also. What the elder wants is part of the contract. Not just what you want for other people. What you want for yourself is part of the contract. I've lived to see it. I've lived to see it, man. I've lived to see it. What the elder wants for him or herself, your own dream, your own heart's desire, it is part of your contract of helping others and assisting others and walking with others. If you'll do it, you'll get what you want to. It is not simply what everybody else wants. What you want is a part of what God is designing as you are helping others to become free. Your own desires are part of it. It's such a beautiful thing. It's just such a beautiful thing. Too many elders are afraid that they're going to give and give and give and have nothing in the end. And it's a sad imagination, but that's not how eldership works. See, the more you plant, the more you harvest. And you always harvest far more than you planted. Always. So I do eldership again and again and again and again. I do it over and over and over again. And some people will stay with you as initiates and some will leave. But they're supposed to. Because you're really training people to transform the world. They can't transform the world standing next to you. They got to leave you and go into the world, most of them. And that is what is going to happen. And it's what should happen. That's part of the process. Yeah.
Wow. Ashe. Oh, thank you so much for joining us, Baba. It's just been such a privilege to learn truly what it means to be an elder. And I love the idea of rites of passage being critical to that process. And I hope that many people out there who are watching will find ways of joining communities that honor rites of passage, that develop character, and that lead one towards their journey and path of becoming an elder. And with that, we say, Tamaku, Togoza, Makosa Makulu. And Baba, I look forward to more transitions with you. All right.
Absolutely. I love you.
Love you too.
Bye.